Today, what we're going to be going over, or what we're going to be creating, is journal prompting agent. This is something that I made that had created a lot of value in my life, and I figured I might just share it. The way that I created it is the compilation of some of my favorite philosophers and some of my favorite psychologists throughout time and to nurture your mind, and it could be of great value to you. So what we're going to be using today, we're going to be using Notion. We're going to be using some of the agents. The agent node. We're going to be using a memory node from Zep. I'm going to show you how to set that up. And we're also going to be using Telegram node. So Telegram node is going to be to send the text messages, to send the prompt for you to read and to gain some value out of. So how do we set this up? Ideally does. So let's just start with the morning prompt, the morning agent. So we're going to start here. So how I've triggered this is ideally every single day at 5 a.m. it's going to send me the journal prompt. You can change this to any time that you want, but the idea is this schedule trigger is the time that N8N is going to trigger this certain automation. So it is a schedule trigger. Schedule. Can't spell today. Schedule trigger. And you would go one day, every single day at 5 a.m. trigger 5 a.m. If you want a 5:30, blah, 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 you enter it through there. And then from there, what you can do, you go through and you add an agent. So which will be here. Nope, that's not the one. Cool. So this is the agent. An important thing to realize and to understand is not everything needs an AI agent with the capability to use tools. A significant amount of workflows, or a good percentage of the workflows that you do create, you just need a little bit of logic and some if decision trees to filter out the data and to direct the data to the exact certain point. Having agents and having LLMs read and manipulate the data and make decisions can be a little bit more complex. The idea is that you need the LLM to actually make a decision. So you need the AI to make a decision or to create something. That is the primary purpose that you have the LLM, or you have the AI agent, or you have the AI to actually make a decision. So it's ideally like a brain. And some things you don't need someone to man it, because you've got a system, you've got a process, and you've got a couple of tools that you can utilize to direct the certain data to a certain workflow or a certain path, right? So you don't need someone to make a decision. When you need someone to make a decision, or you need something to be created, like you need a video to be created, or you need an image to be created, then we'll start implementing LLMs and start utilizing agents. So the chat model, you can use any one of these. It's up to you what you want to use. Generally, I tend to use OpenAI. I think OpenAI is the easiest one so far that I've had the least amount of problems with. Some of the better models are Gemini 2.5. DeepSeek is pretty good as well. However, I do find that DeepSeek has the rate limits on DeepSeek are a little bit problematic. To be totally transparent, I actually have not played around with Anthropic, but I do know Claude is also quite a good option. However, from my understanding, I haven't tested Anthropic as robustly as I probably should. It's a little bit more expensive, and yeah, I think it's significantly more expensive in comparison to all using the other ones, which is pretty good. It's again totally up to you. There's Grok as well, and you also have OpenRouter, which gives you the ability to utilize a whole bunch of different LLMs, which we can also go through if you would like. So what you would do, you go with whatever model that you want. Let us go with OpenAI. Bang. And when you go in, you have the prompt message, the prompt, which is the user message. So this is what you want the agent to do. And the system message is probably, it's ideally giving it its personality, right? So the system message, you're giving it its personality. You're giving it its contextual brain, its perceptual brain, right? So this is how you're meant to think. And this, the prompt, the user message is the task that you're meant to complete. Totally up to you how you want to set this up. That's how I prefer to think about it. Now, the memory, you don't necessarily need one for this. I just put this on for the sake of example and to demonstrate what it could potentially do. So Zep is pretty cool. You could use Zep. You could use the simple memory, which stores, I believe, is up to 5 messages. So it has a 5 contextual window of 5. So it's going to store 5 messages. It's going to reflect upon 5 messages, which ideally would be perfect for this if you want to use Notion. However, if you want something a little bit more complex and you wanted to understand a little bit deeper, which I'm not gonna lie, this is a little bit concerning. Like, I don't think you should probably, it's up to you what you want to do. Again, each to their own. I do use this, and it is, now that I think about it, it's a little bit dangerous because it would have a pretty good understanding of how you think, which is also concerning. However, what Zep does, it's ideally, I'm going to delete that. Damn it, I should not have shown you that. It's ideally like a neural network that stores information. And as the data changes, it keeps a contextual data point based upon the modification and the compounding alteration of the data that you're sharing. So let's say that you had 4 pairs of shoes and you give a pair of shoes to a friend and you tell ChatGPT or whatever, you tell your agent that you gave this pair of shoes to your friend, right? So what it's going to do is it's going to link that information. So the pair of shoes that you gave out to someone else, that pair of shoes came from your 4 pairs, and you currently now only have 3 pairs as you have given away 3 pairs of shoes. So this is purely just for example purposes, okay? So it shows you how it connects the data, which is pretty cool. And it could be very, very useful in terms of how, if you want to build, if you wanted to have a deep understanding or you wanted to remember things a little bit better. Or you can use the 5 context windows, totally up to you what you want to use. There's another one that you can use. So you have a bunch of tools that you can use. Here are all your tools. Vector stores ideally are where you store your information. It's kind of like Superbase. Superbase is a vector store, or you can use I prefer to use Superbase, is where you store your data. Okay, so you store your data in a specific way in order for you to read it. Okay. So Zep is a vector store, but I think Zep is more like is meant to replicate a neural network, which is pretty cool. Superbase is a vector store that kind of looks kind of like spreadsheets. I guess it's a easy way for you to visualize it. And you've got Airtable, which we have used before in our other videos, which I'm also going to add on top of this other stuff. And you just have a bunch of tools that you have access to that you can use. Okay. We're going to be using. Okay. So here's the Notion. So you connect your Notion account. Right. So your Notion account. So you enter your integration secret here. Okay. is pretty handy. And so what we do is we have set it to fetch the last few journal entries. So I'll give you an example, just showing you. We actually work through this stuff. So how this has been set up is this is a database. This is a database page. I ideally use Notion to store everything. It is not, it's probably not the best idea, but I probably need to end this out too. Clap, clap. However, the way I've set it up is it's going to read the last 8 journal entries. And once it reads it's going to read the last eight journal entries. The agent is going to read it, kind of have a little bit of insight and try and give you a quick review based on what it has. So this is the prompt: to retrieve the last week of journal entries, try and analyze psychological patterns, philosophy integration, behavioral analysis, and growth trajectory. So it's going to analyze those things and are based upon how you actually entered your journal and how you entered your journal prompt. And it's going to analyze it and it's going to give you a output based on those things and what it thinks and how you could utilize some strategies to actually help you grow. Again, you don't really have to use this, but it's something that I found massive value out of, so I think that you might find value out of. So it gives you psychological awareness, stoic preparation, strategic consciousness, flow and presence, purpose alignment, all that kind of stuff, right? So this is how I use these tools for myself, because I think that you can use them for way more other things other than, just make money in business. You can use them for growth. I don't know. Each to their own. So this is the system message. Your Clarity from AI mentor fully integrates a strategic rigor of a billion entrepreneur with 185 pattern recognition and a profound, compassionate wisdom of spiritual guide and depth. Psychologists focused on healing, evolution, and soul alignment. Okay, your primary purpose is to analyze the user's past journal entry and responses through psychological and philosophical lenses, generate morning preparation and intention setting reflections for today, and save this content to their Notion journal using provided tools, and you must strictly adhere to tool definitions and output formats. Okay, the reason we do this is you need to give the AI specific instructions to output data so it can output it correctly. Okay, so we've got a few things, which is so it's going to fetch. So what you'll do is open Notion, you go to the whatever database page, and you'll find whatever one that you put in. So ours is reflection and gratitude. And this one is get many. So it's going to fetch the last 8 entries to be reviewed. You can just sort them. You can just add a sort, and you go ascending, and you can go by date, all right? Which could be of use to you. Okay, so it's totally up to you. Okay, so, and it will fetch the last 8 journal entry. I just made it easy, and on my Notion, I just have a filter. I just have a filter for this week, all right? And just for this particular purpose. If you guys would like some lessons on Notion, on how to use Notion and how I personally use Notion to manage my life and to manage life in general, let me know. And the last one, what we also have is a thinking tool. And the thinking tool, ideally, it's just to give, if there's a lot of information and something needs complex memory or complex logic, it just gives it some time to actually to think through it. Okay, and this is just an output parser. Anyway, moving on. And you just go here, you go code, tools, yada yada. Code, run, JavaScript, and you just enter that there. And then last but not least, to be Telegram. and you'll say send a message, and you enter the chat ID, which you'll all find through Telegram. Okay. Cool. So if to set up your Telegram, you go in here, you enter your credentials, your access token. You get this information from going to Botfather. So if you go to Botfather, it should be able to tell you, so you can just create a new bot. Okay, and to get that, you'll just go through here and you launch it. And once you launch, you should be able to create a new bot. So what you'll do is you'll create a new bot, and you just follow this. You just follow the sequence. Follow the sequence all the way through, and it should be able to create you a bot, and it'll give you an access token. Okay, so you enter the access token, and once you enter the access token, you'll enter the chat ID here, and this will be the JSON output. Okay. All right, so let us delete this one, and let's trigger that one, and let's see how we go. Let's see how we go. And let... There you go. I hope you kind of now have a little bit of an understanding of how to pull the pieces together. And if you have an idea of what you were trying to build, you have the fundamental framework in your mind that you can actually start creating these things. And to be able to show you the value that it can actually bring in your life outside of just utilizing to make income, which would be, it's still good, but I think if you could utilize these tools to make your life and your existence a little bit better. That's it. Do like, subscribe, join our school.com. I'll be sharing more stuff like this, and we'll be diving into a little bit more things like anti-gravity, cloud code. As you guys seen, I think there's been like instances where I've kind of shown you guys how I tend to use it. And yeah, thank you so much, and stay blessed. I'll see you in the next one.